baseball, basketball, football, wrestling, MMA, hockey. I need more. I need more. Oh. Don't trade Porzingis.
What the hell? Are you dreaming about Porzingis being traded?
You got traded?
No, you said that in your sleep.
So, welcome to my first video. So, what I'm going to do in this first video is explain basically what a sports fiend is. And so, the whole concept came about a couple of years ago. In my head is basically a sports fiend is someone who's addicted to sports. So, you know, someone who's addicted to sports, someone like myself, is someone who's always on social media, arguing, debating, talking sports with their friends, their co-workers, strangers, and it's non-stop. It's 24/7, 365. And on top of that, you know, we go to games, we play fantasy sports. I think one of the biggest thing that I could say that a sports fiend is someone who actually plays fantasy sports, because I think that just shows a different level of sports fandom, that you actually playing a game that's virtual and that you're running your own team, you're making these trades, you're drafting your players. And so basically what I'm trying to do now is trying to capture that on camera, on audio, is get the conversations I have with my friends, the banter, the debates, the arguments, and trying to get that on camera, trying to get that on audio. Because I always felt when I listen to people, myself, everybody else, that it's entertaining, especially those who are similar to me, that we play fantasy sports or that we're always watching sports and talking about sports. That on top of that, you know, for those that have girlfriends or wives, that their wives or girlfriends look at them like what's wrong with these people? Because seriously, what's wrong with us? And so a couple of weeks ago, I just wrote a status on Facebook on the train ride to work. I just wrote something out that I kind of felt was like, this is how, in my own way, I could explain what a sports fiend is. And so this is what I wrote. I wrote, do you love to talk about sports with your friends or strangers? Do you often daydream about sports when you know you shouldn't? Do you play fantasy sports and your family and friends judge you for playing a fantasy game? Do you often watch or listen to sports talk shows and think to yourself, shit, I can do that? Well, then you might be a sports addict, and I'm here to tell you, you're not alone. If you're one of those people, then hit me up. Let's talk. Let's talk sports. And so that came into my head first. And from there, I basically started brainstorming ideas, which I've been doing for the last couple of years. I just haven't had the time. I was in school. I was working full time. And so now that I have more time, I'm not going to school and I finished with school, I have the time. And so I felt like what better time than now than to go ahead and it wasn't fuck. And what better time than now than to put out this content and put it on video, put it on audio, and see what happens. Because I'm not alone. I've spoken to different other people. I'm gonna shout them out: Octavio, Alex, my friends Elias, Chris, a couple other guys, Anthony, Chino, and we've all had similar ideas. Like we all, for whatever reason, we've used our voices on social media, but we've always felt like we could have done more with it. As far as we felt like, and it's not to say that we're experts or anything like that, because we're not. We're just fans, regular fans, fiends, but we're just normal kids that just grew up from Queens, that happen to love sports, and they probably think that we know more than everybody else, but we don't. But at the same time, you watch TV, you watch the Skip Bayless, the Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Greenberg, and Golick, all these guys on TV, Max Kellerman. And we like these shows. We enjoy them. We watch them. The debates, the discussion, all that stuff. But it never captures how we speak, in a sense. Us people from the hood and from... I give the perfect example is anytime... There's a lot of times that I'm in the barbershop and getting a haircut, and people just end up having discussions about sports, and it's back and forth. Everybody just on this end, on the other end, just... And it might not be people that even know each other, but they just get into it. They start talking to each other, and that's entertaining to me. I always involve myself in those conversations because I love sports, and I just feel that it's my thing. Like I told a couple of friends that like there'll be times when friends are arguing about sports, and I'll get these phone calls out of the blue, basically like, "Oh, Ronnie," and they'll just be like, who's the player that the Mets traded for this player, or remember that time that this team da-da-da-da, and there's whatever comes up, they call me because they consider me as their sports guy. As far as, not that I know more than everybody, I watch the same or as much as anybody else of any of my friends. We all watch sports, a lot of it, but I've been labeled that person as like the sports person, ESPN, Mr. ESPN. And well, yeah, like I felt like I should do something about it. So this is the start of that. I've had many different ideas. It's gonna be a little rough around the edges. As you saw earlier, I did a little, it slipped up a little bit. I didn't know if I was actually recording right now or not. So I'm not very tech savvy. I'm gonna learn as I go. But I'm going to do my best to try to capture these conversations I have with my friends. I might even just do these one-on-ones just to get started, because it's kind of hard to get a group of people and record it, especially because I'm only using my phone right now. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to speak to some of my friends, talk about sports. I'm also going to record my sports experiences. So, for instance, this weekend I'm going to do a live football draft, a fantasy football draft, and I'm gonna record aspects of the draft, the preparation of it. I'm gonna try to talk to some of the players before they make picks, that kind of stuff. And I'm actually gonna record myself as I'm drafting one of my other leagues, kind of give you kind of put you on my mind of how I'm thinking about and why I'm drafting a certain way, that kind of stuff. So just different things that we do as Sports Feenz that there's a fly there, that you can see why we labeled ourselves as Sports Feenz, in that essence that we do these things that is like not normal in a sense. But again, I'm not alone. There's many of us, millions of us that play fantasy sports. There's of course millions of sports fans. And so I'm more of a baseball, basketball, football. Those are my three main sports that I watch. I'm also a big pro wrestling fan. That's pretty obvious if you follow me on any social media, on Facebook or anything. I'm also a big fan of MMA. But the other sports, I'm not gonna act like I know it too well. So I'm gonna have other people kind of lead the way with those topics. So again, this is, even though I'm in a sense leading the way for what I'm doing here with the Sports Feenz, I have other friends that are actually going to help out. And, because I'm not going to speak about hockey if I don't follow hockey that intently. So I'm going to have somebody that knows about hockey talk about hockey when, we get a chance. Soccer, football, however you want to call it. I'm going to have somebody that knows about that stuff more than I do, because I really don't follow that sport. I started following the World Cup, but I'm not a big soccer fan, admittedly. So I'll do my part as far as the sports that I know that I follow strongly, and I'll try to get those conversations as well. And another thing I'm trying to do is like I kind of do this thing where I like to go to different stadiums, different cities, visit, and use it as an excuse to visit other cities that I've never been to. So, for instance, next month I'm going to Boston with the Seven Line Army, and so I'm gonna kind of record my experience there, and try to record Fenway Park, the people I meet in Boston. Maybe there's be some friendly Red Sox fans, maybe not. I mean, I'm a Mets fan. I mean, they shouldn't have much trouble with me than they would a Yankee fan, but we'll see. And so I'm gonna record that experience, try to give you an idea of what it is to go to Boston as a New York fan. I'm also planning a trip with some of my friends that I mentioned earlier, Chris, Anthony, my brother, my cousin, a couple of other guys. We're actually planning a trip to the Bay Area, so we're gonna go see the Giants play the San Francisco 49ers. We're gonna go see them at Levi Stadium in November, so it's a Monday night game. And while we're there, we're also planning on going to maybe a Raiders game that Sunday. Maybe go see the not the Lakers though, Golden State Warriors in Golden State, and may go to Sacramento to see the Lakers in Sacramento. But again, that trip we don't know yet. But yeah, I'm gonna record. We're gonna record our experience there in the Bay Area. So that kind of stuff. And I have other friends telling me already that when I go to this city, when I go to this town, this stadium, this ballpark, whatever it is, they're gonna send me videos so they can share it with you guys to kind of show you guys what it is, to visit these stadiums and all that stuff. But on top of that, again, any kind of sports experience, we're doing a tailgate in October with people from my neighborhood. We usually do one a year where we tailgate before a game. Some people go to the actual game itself. Some people just stay outside and watch. Anthony would normally bring his TV. Is kind enough to bring his TV so that we could watch some of the games outside in the parking lot for those that don't attend the game. And so I'm gonna try to record as much of that as possible to kind of give you the tailgate experience. If you've never done a tailgate, which if you're a sports fanatic like me, Sports Feenz, you probably have already been to a tailgate. But again, this is kind of just more so to put people that don't understand us in a sense, like especially people that play fantasy sports, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't comprehend, is why we love to play fantasy sports and why we go so hard in a sense to pay attention to sports, follow sports so strongly, why we're so opinionated and passionate about it. And so I feel like in essence it's kind of like a tour for those people that don't get it. Hopefully they'll get it in a bit, but at the same time this is more for entertainment. I've always felt like it was always entertaining to me to hear my friends argue, talk trash to each other, go back and forth, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that the same way that I find it enjoyable, that you guys will as well. And this is the first video. This is the first thing I'm doing for the first week right now. Like I said, I'm gonna do the whole live draft experience. I'm gonna record myself drafting a fantasy football team. And I did a recording the other day with two of my friends, Elias and Chris. So that's going to be like the first episode, basically. Like that's like the first half hour of audio that we recorded ourselves just talking about a little bit about fantasy football, this upcoming fantasy football season. Just a little back and forth that, we didn't plan it. As far as that, we didn't plan it to be aired on YouTube or anything like that. But once we got started talking, I said, you know what, you guys mind if I put this out there, because this is exactly what I wanted to capture on camera. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna air that one. That's gonna be like a teaser video of what you can look forward to going forward. And I mean, there's I could say a lot more about my fandom. I guess I should right now a little bit about me, since this is my video. So in a sense, like a little bio about me is that so I grew up initially, my first sport that I grew to love was baseball. I started watching baseball, I want to say 4 years old. My father took me to a game around that same age, 4 or 5 years old. And then from there, the part where I tell people, like, this is where I became a big, like, Feen when it comes to sports was when my father bought me this game, RBI Baseball 94, and as soon as he gave me that game, I was playing it. I was in my room, stuck in my room playing that game. And well, with people that know me, they say when I was younger that I was really good at math. And the reason why I got really good at math was through playing that video game, because they would have all these little statistics, and I would just, through these statistics, oh, this batter's 1 for 3, 33%, that kind of stuff. 2 for 4, 50%, that kind of stuff. So I learned batting average at a young age. So math came to me pretty easily through that game. And again, this is something that people won't get, but if you lived it, you'll understand. So I grew up a baseball fan. I was both Yankees and Mets at first, and then from there, I have most of my family, like my cousins or everything, are Yankee fans. But I became a diehard Mets fan the moment the Mets acquired Mike Piazza. I tell this story all the time. So I was like a tweener, and then as soon as the Mets acquired Mike Piazza, I had told my mother when I knew Mike Piazza was going to debut for the Mets. It was a Saturday game in May of '98. And I told my mother that I needed $10. So who knows what excuse I made at that time. I don't even remember at this point. But I told my mother I needed $10, and she didn't know what I was doing with those $10. I went and I bought tokens to go to the Mets game. I went to the Mets game, and I bought these $5 tickets. It was actually the blue level, the lodge level. It was like the back row. It's actually like a lot of your view is blocked anyways. But I was there, and I went to the game, and just that experience of that day, it was like that optimism of, what, shit is going to change over here in New York. It's not just a Yankee town anymore. So I gravitated towards the Mets. I'm like, they're from Queens as well, but it was just that moment of it's shifting. This might become a Mets town, which, no, it stayed a Yankee town. But the Mets, they have some good years in the late 90s and early 2000s. And so, yeah, I became a Mets fan. That's where my allegiance is at right now. To this day, I've been through some ups and downs, but that's beside the point. When it comes to the Knicks, so I've been a Knicks fan since '93, I want to say, because I remember vividly, like I had followed the Knicks in '93 throughout that whole year, and then they made it to the finals at the end of that year, '94. And yeah, Jordan had just retired, and we made it to the finals, and it was like, all right, this is my team. Shoot, look, we made it to the finals. We came this close. We'll come back. And but I became even more hardcore fan of the Knicks when my fourth grade teacher, she gave us this book. It was like the Bible for me, and it was a book of the 50th anniversary of the New York Knicks, and I read that book every single day. That was the year the Knicks got Allen Houston, Chris Childs. I think they signed Buck Williams. They had this solid offseason where it was like they were surrounding Ewing with these younger in their prime players that fit the team. They just traded for Larry Johnson as well, and it was like, yo. And then that book was everything. I was reading that book, and then from then on, in that book, I got to read a lot about the Knicks' history, about Clyde Frazier, Earl Monroe, Dave DeBusschere, Phil Jackson, Willis Reed, Bernard King, all those guys. And since then, hooked. Knicks fan. Again, been through a lot more downs than ups since I became a diehard Knicks fan. But I'm loyal to the core. That goes for any team. And same thing. So the same thing with football, with the Jets and Giants. I lean more to the Giants, and this is a weird story, but I wasn't really keen to either team when I was younger. I wasn't that big of a football fan when I was younger. I loved to play football as a kid, but I didn't really watch the NFL until like the playoffs, that kind of stuff. And then in around 2000, I want to say, because around 2000, 2001, we got Madden 2000 for PlayStation, and I used to play with my cousin. And then, my cousin, I forget what team he used to pick, but I just picked the Giants. I was like, I'm going to pick the Giants. And so from there, like, once I started picking the Giants at Madden and started playing with them, I started to know who was on their team, this and the third. And from there, I was hooked. Giants fan since then, since I became a Giants fan. Although they made it to Super Bowl that year as well, in 2000. So I guess you could say I was a bandwagon fan. Even though technically, if you know me, I'm not that kind of person. And then pro wrestling, man. Pro wrestling is very dear to me. Unlike a lot of people my age, we go through this phase where we love it when we're little. It dies out as you get older. And it did for me at a little point when I was in high school. but not that bad. Like I watched it here and there, but from the moment basically I watched Ultimate Warrior, he hooked me. And then Bret the Hitman Hart was my guy. Like I saw the way he wrestled. I felt like every time he wrestled, it felt real to me, especially when I was younger. And listen, I knew since the age of like 8 or 9 years old that it was predetermined, that it was rehearsed. And everybody's always, it's fake, it's fake. Yeah, it's fake. And you know what? How many million people watch it? Many. So I'm not alone there. I watch it to this day. I'm pretty into it. I watch most of the shows now. It's a habit, but I love it, and I want to get into that conversation eventually about why I love it and why I kind of dismiss those people that shit on it, because a lot of people say, oh, it's fake, blah, 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 but so are movies. And people go watch movies and they get caught up in the movie because why? It's entertaining. There's action, there's comedy, there's all kinds of things. So wrestling is the same way, everything rolled up. But that's a conversation for another day, and I'll get people that are just as big a fan as me when it comes to pro wrestling. So we'll do that. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. You're gonna get to meet some of my friends. What I'm gonna do is when I do these videos, I'll try to do an intro for my friends before the conversations with my friends, because I don't want to do like this Q&A thing with my friends where I'm asking a question, because I know my friends. And there's people that I don't know as well, but that I'm connected through them through sports, because there are people like that. I have people in fantasy leagues that I know them as just fantasy league players, but I don't know them too personally. And so then in that case, I will ask them questions about them, how they became fans of fantasy sports or about teams. But for the most part, I'm not gonna dive into that kind of stuff, because for the most part I know these people in some way, shape or form. And eventually down the road, hopefully I do get to interview or meet these certain people that are more fascinating than just my friends, because again, it might become a little tiresome if you see some of my friends. But again, we're just getting started, so hopefully we build on this. I want to shout out the people that are going to help me. They know who they are. Let's do this. Let's put out some content. Let's don't hold back. I want people to just experience what we feel and what we talk about and how we go about things when it comes to sports. And well, yeah, man, this is it. And of course, I'm wearing my New York Spreewell. You already know, half of my closet is wrestling shirts, Knicks, Giants, Mets. Anyways, I hope you got a little glimpse of my sports fandom, my sports fiendness. So yeah, this is the Sports Feenz channel. Like, subscribe, share, follow on Instagram, follow on Twitter. I'm gonna post all that stuff. Don't worry about it. But hope you guys give us a chance, support us. It's it's now or never. So it's time to do it. Please.